Hey my friends, we've just landed in Egypt and I felt inspired to share this very famous parable with you that's called Blind Man and an Elephant. And it holds a very unique story to what many of you or many of us may be feeling right now, like with all the events that are happening on the world, with all the Ascension journey you're moving through. You're beginning to see that along your path of your spiritual evolution, there's a term called enlightenment, which is, in other words, called illumination. It means that you awaken from being blind and you start to see that all the truth you've heard from different directions is so much bigger, and you learn to kind of move the dust away and to grab the bigger meaning of any story you've heard and all the experiences you've been through. So suddenly, out of that meaning can grow a flower of purpose. So yeah, I think the whole video will be a bit more poetic. We're in Egypt, so why wouldn't we embody some of this spirit of this ancient land, right? So the story of this blind man and an elephant is very, very interesting. So few blind men come across an elephant and they're amazed though, like, what is this? Like, what is in front of us? So they start touching it. And therefore each blind man has an experience of an elephant only by what they touch, right? So therefore each blind man touches it in different angles. They all have unique experiences about it. And as they move along their paths, they move on, they start arguing with one another. Like one says, you know, it was like this and it was soft and it felt like this. And the other one says, no, you're delusional, it was actually hard and it was like this. And the other one goes, no, you both guys are delusional, it was actually like this. So the point was that everyone holds a truth to what was their experience of this elephant, but because their truth is limited, they're arguing with one another what is right and what's not right. And therefore, the highest or higher stage from this blind man would be someone who's actually seeing what's in front of them and would be able to explain the whole animal. Like, hey guys, you're all correct, but you're also missing a lot. And this is what is happening to people who are moving through some kind of spiritual awakening. They recognize, well, everything I've heard by my parents, everything I've heard by my teachers, by priests, by religion, by philosophy, by spiritual ideas is correct. It holds a lot of truth. But what is missing is the bridge between one truth and another. And the bridge is only you have to build it. You have to learn to connect the dots. And in order to build a bridge, well, you need material, right? And material is knowledge. Knowledge is gained and as you move on your own path and you start researching everything, not just by learning and reading, but actually experimenting, traveling, trying different jobs, trying different educational systems, failing at many things, and just expanding, stretching your, what in ancient times would call psyche, stretching your spirit, your soul. And well, there's actually a very interesting connection to the word psyche. The ancient Greek word psyche was later translated into a butterfly. Butterfly is the translation of the word psyche. And it's interesting why? Well, because your soul, your spirit is very similar to a butterfly. Butterfly is very, fragile being, creature. But it has a very strong navigational pull. It knows where to go. It's very beautiful and they attract each other because of its beauty, its uniqueness, and they just know where they need to go. But the more interesting part to butterflies and connection to your psyche and your evolution you're going through right now is the transitioning phase between the caterpillar and the butterfly. So when caterpillar starts opening up, butterfly starts using its all strength that it gained in the life of a caterpillar to press with the wings against the walls of the cocoon to open it. That's what it is doing. It is pushing as hard as it can. But the interesting part here is if you would help to open up the cocoon, butterfly would die. It would not evolve into a butterfly, and that's your psyche. That's your soul. When someone helps you to go through a very challenging phase in your life, you partially die because you close down once again and you've never fully opened to liberate yourself. There's a lot of symbolism in butterfly. It has beautiful wings. Not just that it can fly, it's also beautiful. It's also a very beautiful creature. It only means that when you learn to push, to really squeeze all of your muscles, to use them to move through very hard, challenging times, to kind of open the wall of the cocoon you've been in, and cocoon can be your home, it can be a toxic relationship, it can be a toxic job, it can be being, I don't know, stagnant somewhere for too long. It's all a cocoon. Cocoon is called comfort zone, right? As long as you're staying in the comfort, well, you're blind to many degrees. And in order to really, to open up from the cocoon, you need knowledge. You need to see something that you couldn't saw before. You need to know that there is a way, that there is a possibility, that there is a different life outside of where you are, right? And you need to seek it. So that's why they say those who seek will find. If you seek, you shall find, right? So you start looking outside of the cocoon and you get what? You get enthusiasm, which is another ancient word meant as being infused by spirit. You get introduced to the spiritual potential of what can manifest into your new you that is right now a future you as a potential, spiritual ascension. So as you're moving through this process and really pushing hard to go through the hard times, as many of you are moving through hard times right now, some of you are already somewhere, well, quite along this journey and you think these hard times should already pass, but longer they are persisting, bigger is your life, right? Bigger will be your wings and greater will be your freedom. So you need to know that. More beautiful colors you will see around you. As you're pushing through these hard times, you're strengthening your wings. You're pushing blood into all the muscles of your body. That is strengthening you. This is the strength of a warrior that many of you are awakening to right now, experiencing in your whole body. Beautiful thing, powerful thing. Well, yes, don't forget to rest. Don't forget to take a break, but move on because, well, many of you are on a very important path on this current timeline. We can say, yeah, timeline. And you're pushing through. Well, when cocoon finally fully opens, it's a moment of illumination. You become like this blind man that were touching the elephant, of course, but you start to see. You start to see, okay, yes, my subjective truth was correct, but it was also missing so much. It was missing so much. And now you're beginning to see that also other truths were great, but now you're craving them. Now you're craving new experiences. So that's why so many of you have been pulled to so much of new knowledge, so much of new information, so much of new data, whatever, new books, new teachers, everything. But now what you're feeling on your current phase of ascension is this first glimpses of when butterfly comes out of the cocoon and it wants to fly. Now I want to experience everything I've heard. I want to experience everything I've been taught. I want to put this knowledge to a test, and I want to see how it feels like. I want to travel and meet new people. I want to talk a different language. I want to see how it feels like. I want to recognize what's the view at the top of the mountain and what can I find there, right? It's so interesting when I talk with Americans. I love you guys, my friends. I love you all. When I talk with Americans, sometimes they say, you know, my life was a pile of shit before I've started, moving on this transformative journey. And while there's so much truth, I think all of us have been at some point in the phase, in the chapter where we would say our life was a pile of shit, right? But then you recognize, well, that shit is also maybe a mountain. It's a mountain of dust. It's a mountain of chaos. And there's a reason why, if you go into ancient books like the Bible, for example, where you have, the Old Testament, where there's so many stories of Moses talking with God. He was also known as the messenger of God. When he felt the most disconnected from God, he needed to move at the top of the mountain. There's a lot of symbolism, right? He moved at the top of the mountain to reconnect with God. That's why mountains are often seen as the bridge between the earth and the heaven, right? So, well, sometimes when we feel our life is a pile of, whatever, you kind of need to move above everything. So then you can see all the shit that was, cultivating and kind of, coming together and blinded you from the gold that was also part of your journey. So you need to go sometimes at higher places to experience greater connection with God, with life. And that's why, the spiritual ascension is called ascension. You're moving higher. As you move higher, you see further. But also as you move higher, it requires from you a lot of strength, a lot of stamina. What is happening, you're using your fat as a fuel for the muscle, right? And it's another symbolism of this ascension process, which means that, well, you start burning the nonsense and it transforms into clarity. So there was so much of nonsense in your life present that it formed a pile of what you call shit, right? And in this sense, in this pile of nonsense, there are glimpses of wisdom that could be called as gold, right? So as you're moving along your very beautiful ascension journey, you're recognizing that in every very painful experience, there was something that you just needed to learn. And that's where you've learned this great wisdom that says a world is maybe a reflection of you. And therefore, as long as you weren't able to really grasp the gold, the wisdom of that pain, it was repeating, right? So at this point, many of you feel like you want to move back into certain painful experiences because of the gold, because of the wisdom. So then you can fully move on and you can fully let go and you can move on with understanding. So one thing that happened in our life last year was that we actually moved to the place where we started, and the reason for that was that Maya started to feel a huge, very strong, almost like a soul call to go back to the place, to the house where we've started. It's a neighbor's house from Maya's parents. We moved back there, and it was very tough for Maya because it's the neighborhood and everything that was so triggering to her. And she was like, why do I want to go back there? But at the same time, I want to go there. And yes, as we moved there, we learned to set strong boundaries. We learned to communicate with one another. And we've recognized, well, it's not so hard as it was in the past when we first time moved out of it. We moved out of it partially also as a need to escape from chaos, escape from somewhere where you feel like you don't belong. It was a call for an adventure. And from that adventure, we came back to see how much we've grown. So that is happening to many of you right now. You're coming back into what used to be a chaos. And now you're taking the gold out of the nonsense. And you're recognizing, well, it was not so bad than I thought it was. But it's also not something where I want to stay. So it's not like start tolerating all the bullshit or just now I will adapt to it. It's just to seeing more clearly what still needs to be learned from everything you've been escaping from, right? Ancient Zen proverb says, wherever you go, there you are. You can't escape a pile of shit. You can't. You're carrying it in your backpack, but you don't know. But you begin to know when you start digging deeper into your psyche, right? You start recognizing that everything that is closing down your cocoon, your soul, your mind, is what you should press into, what you should push into until it opens, right? That's why Rumi said, keep breaking your heart until it opens. It means that certain things that are breaking your heart, as hard as you want to move away from them, you should also move back into them until they open your heart. In other words, they help you to see more truthfully what is really happening there. Why? So it can awaken in your heart forgiveness and humility. So forgiveness and humility are two most powerful energies you're learning about right now. Many of you have recognized that what was the darkest phase in your life was actually a phase where you've been learning to forgive and to humble yourself. You thought you know so much. You thought you deserve more. You thought you should be positive. But you're recognizing, no, I should humble myself and thank life, thank God, or whoever, whatever you believe. I would say thank God to introduce you to a bigger truth. Life is so much bigger than we think it is. But when we find out bigger or wider our perception, stronger the connection. Stronger the connection, greater the trust, right? Stronger the connection with the, Wi-Fi, greater the connection with the internet. Stronger the connection of the dots in your life, seeing the big picture. Stronger will be the connection with life. You will not need to go to the top of the mountain to feel the connection with God. Now you will feel connection everywhere, all the time. So the point is that you're moving on this ascension journey to elevate yourself from the darkness, not escaping it, but actually opening up your cocoon to see more clearly that it was all a process, not a hell. Maybe the hell itself is actually a process of metamorphosis, right? Maybe it is. So when we've been the most afraid of the hell and all the darkness, was maybe also the time when we've been considering the possibility to build up strength, to build up resilience through knowledge, through curiosity. You've started learning new information. COVID happened. It woke up many people. They've started studying all kinds of new potential things that would be interesting to them. And then curiosity would take them onto an adventure, and then, well, you need courage. There's a question, are you brave enough to go on this path? And many of you went. I celebrate you, my friend, because it was not an easy decision, and you know that it was not easy, right? You know that. So courage took you onto an adventure. You said yes to it. In one of my previous videos, I talked about calling. You said yes to that calling. But then what was the next phase out after courage? Well, consistency. I've seen so many people after COVID woke up and went back to sleep. Consistency took you on pushing the wings. Butterfly has quite a short process from this metamorphosis. Your process is timeless. It has so many phases, so many chapters. That's why, yeah, Psyche was translated into a butterfly, but it's an infinite butterfly. Your soul is an infinite butterfly. It moves through the phases. That's why in ancient alchemy they said you will go through the black phase, the dark night of the soul, you will go through white phase, which is the phase of purification, and then there will be the red phase, which is the phase of crystallization. It's the phase of knowledge, of gaining skills, of gaining experiences. And then when you start to feel arrogant because you feel you know so much, there will come another black phase, another dark phase. So this is a cycle. That's why in symbolism of alchemy you will often find the snake that is moving into infinity, chasing its own tail, because it's constantly, you know, chasing the next dark phase. It's a snake because snake symbolizes transformation, shedding off the old skin, right? This is the real ascension. So don't be so afraid of the hard times, because they are making your wings bigger. But many of you already feel like flying, like traveling. We're in Egypt right now. We feel like flying. We've been flying here. So it felt like that. But it's only because our wings are strong now, right? And many of you feel your wings are getting stronger. Your wisdom is getting more integrated. You're getting more filtered. There's more gold in your soul and less nonsense, right? You see things more clearly. You're not a blind man anymore. Now you see clearly that in front of you is an elephant. It's a beautiful creature, but it's so much more than what you've experienced at the first time, like when firstly you went into spirituality or philosophy or religion or any other way of thinking. You thought, oh, it should be like this. Today you know it's actually so much more, right? And it's so much different than what you've been taught. And that so much different part from what you thought it, how it should be, is what makes you today special. Because only you have an experience of it so much bigger. That's why it almost feels like now you're at the top of the mountain connected with God, because you're not physically at the top of the mountain, but you're spiritually higher than you used to be, right? And this is the real ascension. You're now higher than you used to be. And you can only know that if you understand that everything is so much greater than you used to believe. And everything happens with a greater ease than it used to happen. And there's a greater connection with God or divine than it used to be. And there's more trust than it used to be, right? So once again, I celebrate you, because it took a lot of bravery from you, right? It took a lot of strength from you, but it gave you more of it. You are now very, very strong individual, and that's beautiful to see. You will need it one day, somewhere. You will need it. So keep believing in you, my friend, and I will leave you here. I hope you found a great value in today's a bit more parable-like message, but it was beautiful. So I'm sending you lots of love, blessings, and power. I hope you've enjoyed the scenery. It's a beautiful place. I will show you more in the next videos. So believe in yourself, my friends, and thanks to all of you for choosing to support my art, my paintings. I'm an artist, actually. To those of you who are new here, I'm a painter, artist, and so much more. Go and check out AttractPassion.com, where you will find all of my paintings, all of my work. Check it out. If you feel aligned to support it, you will support this mission. So for that, I'm truly grateful to you. And also join us on our Patreon page, AttractPassion, where you will find some exclusive content and community chat and so much more. Thank you so much for your support, and till next time, one love.